This is not your usual morning routine video. Because let's be honest, most of the routines that you see online are completely unrealistic. I mean, cold plunges, journaling, dancing around in the garden naked to get your morning sunlight. Sure, it sounds good, but in reality, it's completely unrealistic. Having said that, as a full-time lawyer, I have learned that a morning routine is essential for me because if I don't start my day with focus and energy, I'm going to spend the rest of it playing catch up. So that's why I have built a routine that isn't so much about doing more. It's about doing the right things that make me feel faster, sharper, and more effective, with the big goal being to save me hours later in the day to focus on some of the things that matter most, be that my health, my family, or just doing more work. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do is hydrate, because overnight as we're sleeping, our bodies, they are losing water. And so a lot of the time when we wake up first thing in the morning, we are going to be dehydrated. And dehydration is really not a good thing. And if you are dehydrated, you're probably not going to feel as alert as you want to. It can also affect your concentration and just your general mood. And because of all that, you're probably not going to be able to work as productively and just feel as energized as you want to. And so dehydration is something that we want to avoid. And so for me, pretty much as one of the first things that I do every morning, I down a big glass of water. It's usually about 400 milliliters of water, and I will literally just try to drink that pretty much as quickly as possible. And then throughout the morning, I am generally drinking a little bit more water than I'll drink in the later parts of the day, just with the idea of really trying to kind of replenish my water levels as quickly as possible to make sure that I am staying nice and hydrated. Okay, so the next thing I try to do is meditate. And I know for some people, meditation is probably gonna fall into that like cold plunge category of morning routine things where it's like, really, you got like time to meditate every morning. But for me, I just try and do a 10-minute daily meditation on Sam Harris's Waking Up apps, which I have found to be one of the best apps for meditation, having tried a bunch of them. And despite it only being 10 minutes, I'll admit it's still something that I'm not as consistent with as I'd like to be. But I do find that whenever I do meditate, I do think it is a really useful tool, and I do generally just feel a little bit better doing it. I feel a little bit calmer. I generally feel a little bit more present throughout the day. And I find that I am just more aware of my emotions when I'm meditating consistently. And I think that's a useful thing as well, because it can then help you to sort of understand whether you need to address anything in particular or target potentially any areas of your life. And so I think meditation, it really is a useful part of my morning routine whenever I do it. The third thing that I do is exercise. And I think exercise probably is the most important and biggest key aspect of my morning routine. And it depends what day of the week it is, but I will every morning do some kind of strength training exercise, or I will go for a run. And again, depending on the day of the week, it will be anywhere from about 30 minutes to maybe even an hour and a half. Sometimes it is just like a 30-minute jog, or if I've got a bit more time, I might spend that like hour and a half in the gym or going on a longer run. And for me, exercise, it's just like the number one thing to do. I feel so much better whenever I do. I feel more energized, I feel happier, I, as a result of that, just feel more productive, and I even feel like I'm just able to handle the day better and all of the stresses of the day. And particularly even say like, if I have something at work that I think is gonna be particularly stressful, or maybe something that I'm gonna like struggle with a little bit more, I will actually intentionally train a little bit harder and a little bit more intensely that morning, because I think it then will just have the knock-on effect of allowing me to deal with whatever that thing is better later in the day. So exercise for me, that's the number one part of my morning routine. So the fourth habit of mine is around delayed caffeine. And so I'm a massive fan of coffee and caffeine, but as part of my morning routine, I will intentionally delay when I have my first bit of caffeine for the day. And so I will try to delay it at least 1 hour after waking, and usually I'll try, if possible, to delay it to around 2 hours after waking. And I started doing this about just over a year ago, having watched the Andrew Huberman podcast, and some of the reasoning as to why you should do this does get a little bit scientific and techie, but I think essentially there's two main reasons. So firstly, by delaying your caffeine, it helps to align your body more naturally to its natural cortisol production. And I think your cortisol levels, they peak first thing in the morning to promote alertness. But if you do actually consume caffeine too early, like as soon as you wake up in the morning, it can interfere with that natural cortisol production. And as a result of that, you can actually get a bit of a crash in energy levels. I think the second main reason is that by delaying caffeine, you allow your body to more naturally clear adenosine, which is the chemical that makes you feel sleepy. And adenosine, it builds up overnight as you are sleeping. But I think if you delay your caffeine, you allow the adenosine levels to more naturally drop within your body. And that then means that when you do have caffeine a little bit later in the morning, it should work that much more effectively, and you should have sort of a greater hit of the energy and a bit more sustained energy throughout the day. And I'll be honest, on some days it is a little bit difficult to do this, but generally I do always do this, and I do find that when I do basically get sort of those effects as advertised, and I do feel like the caffeine works a little bit better, and I do get that kind of slight stronger hit of energy. And as I usually time having the caffeine with when I'm about to start work, I feel it also just provides me with a nice energy boost to then really start and attack my work and the day ahead. And then the fifth and final part of my morning routine is to order my day. And so having done the first 4 habits of the day, usually I am feeling pretty good. I'm feeling energized, feeling happy, I'm feeling raring to go. And so the fifth part of my morning routine is really just to firstly kind of get clear as to actually what I need to do throughout my day. And that will include me trying to sort of figure out how long different things are going to take me to do. And then once I'm clear on that, I will then just try to structure my day around those things that I need to do. And often for me, that will mean that in the morning, I'll try and put sort of the most like intensive type tasks, or maybe the things that are most urgent, because earlier in the day, I do feel like I'm a little bit more energized and a little bit more creative, and kind of my brain is just ticking that much better. So I'll try and put those types of things there. And then later in the day, maybe I'll save like slightly more admin tasks that aren't quite as intense for when I'm gonna have a little bit less energy. So there you go, there is my morning routine. And I really do feel that it is a morning routine that is realistic, and it is one that has allowed me to feel my best and manage my time most appropriately. I hope you found some of it useful. Maybe give it a go and see how you find it, and let me know how you got on. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.